first time I went to a city was when I was 18 years of age. I've always lived in my parents' farm. The farm, gifted by my grandfather to my father. I lived there most of my life. Before I moved out, I saw a lot of weird stuff living there. I had to work a lot. I had to milk the cows, plow the fields, and pick the carrots. This didn't really bother me. I actually enjoyed doing these types of chores. They took my mind off things. However, my least favorite chore was getting water from the well. The well at the farm was deep, very deep. So deep it seemed like it was endless. I remember one day I went to pick up water, and to my surprise, I noticed there was a huge gator swimming down there. The farm was in Florida. When days were chilly, I could see a lot of alligators in the nearby lake. I wonder what they were thinking. They just stared at me with their glowing, translucent eyes. When I saw the gator, it was nothing out of the usual. The well had a small tunnel that connected to the lake nearby. The land on the farm was kind of dry, so we did this to always maintain a flow of water. Anyways, after a couple of hours, the gator eventually returned to the lake through the tunnel. Now, the creepiest shit I have ever seen there was on a Sunday, late at night. I remember my cousins were staying in the farm for the week. It was summer when this happened to me. I remember getting woken up by my mom. "Sorry to wake you, can you go fetch some water from the well?" she said. What? I said, "Can you go get some water from the well? We ran out." She responded, "Alright. Can you just wake me up later?" "Damn," I said. I got ready and promised myself I would do this fast so I could go back to sleeping. When I finally got to the well, I heard some water splashing, coming from down there. A little spooked, I grabbed my iPhone and turned on the flashlight. As I was flashing the light down there, I remember seeing little bubbles forming down the well. I then saw as a mysterious figure slowly stood up from under the water. I remember it slowly twisted its head upwards to look at me. It was staring at me. It had an impossibly large smile, perfect white teeth, razor sharp. It had large eye sockets, but small pinpoint pupils, yellow eyes, so terrifying. It was smiling at me. After it staring at me for about 5 seconds, I quickly started running towards the house. We called the cops, however, they found nothing. Since then, I've never visited that farm ever again.
Eat by u/hyperobscura. My eyes are itching, and my novelty birthday hat is strapped on too tight. It's an infantile fantasy theme this year, and I loathe it with every fiber of my being. I'm 15 years old, Mom. I don't care about wizards and unicorns and sparkle fairies anymore. Before me looms my birthday cake, and I swallow deeply. Make a wish, pumpkin. My mom's shrill voice calls from across the table. I wish you'd die. I wish I was never born. I wish someone would strangle me in my sleep, and I blow out the candles, a single tear rolling down my chin. Mom cheers excitedly, a crazed expression on her wrinkled face. What did you wish for? Death, I think. Some new clothes and shoes, I murmur. Yes, that's a good wish, Mom says, readying the knife. Really good wish. She stares at me silently with puffy red eyes, shaking her head in disappointment. That's my mom, through and through, an avatar of disappointment. Snide remarks and veiled insults incarnate. I am never to feel good about myself remains her undying creed. I'm not pretty, not smart, not worthy of any attention whatsoever, unless it's my birthday. It's a big old cake, isn't it? She grins, puffing on her menthol cigarette disgustingly, spittle dripping over her garish outfit. Been quite a year. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll do better. Promise. I whisper. Please, please, can I be excused? Oh no. No. You have to try the cake. You have to finish it all. The knife cuts through it in slow, methodical slices, and I can feel her spiteful gaze on me like sharp pins in my flesh. 44 pounds. That's 20 kilos, Caitlin. Incidentally, also the average weight of a 6-year-old child. I'll be better, I whimper pathetically. Please. I don't think you can, darling, she says coldly, dropping an oozing slice on my plate. But we shall see. Got a whole year to improve now, don't we? I nod weakly, desperately trying to wipe away the tears. But I can't. I can't move my hands. Now, eat, she says. Dig into the cake like the disgusting animal you are. I wince painfully, the suction tubes inserted in my abdomen, rubbing against the pus-filled wounds. Flood waves of pain washing over me if I move so much as an inch. But I can handle the pain. That's not my punishment. No, the punishment is the cake. Every last drop of my own excess fat somehow pumped into that abomination. I've gained 44 pounds too much this year, according to my mom. That's 20 kilos, or a 6-year-old child. And now, I have to slurp it all up again. My mom stands behind me now, the menthol stench of her sweaty body bombarding my nostrils relentlessly. Sinewy hands around my neck in a firm grip, she forces my face ever closer to the horrid gloop of chunky fat. Please, I murmur. Eat.
There are a few rules a Hooters girl must never forget. Hair and makeup. Entertain the men. Don't make the woman jealous. Don't wear the uniform out of the store. And never leave the restaurant alone. That last one, that was to protect the girls from the creeps. It was a great job. The customers loved you. The tips flowed like hot sauce. And the days were just one long party. Great, except for the managers. These assholes thought they were the gods of their own harems. They would expect you to worship the ground they walk on, while they told you you put on 3 pounds. Look at this picture we took at the interview. This is who we hired. If you are not her, then you don't have a job here, was the kind of shit they said all the time. Some girls who did have trouble dropping the weight sometimes had to do gross things to keep their jobs. Not me though. God granted me with a metabolism where I could eat 12 wings a day on the house, and then just dance it off every dinner rush. Things were great, until we got a new regular. He called himself Mr. Barrett, wore a bowler hat, a striped vest, and an obnoxious gold belt buckle. He had a long mustache, spoke with a hard-to-place European accent, and always paid in cash. At first, Barrett was the most popular customer in the house. He came in during slow hours, and his tips were sometimes bigger than the check. He never complained, and never tried to touch the girls, but still, instead of fighting for him, most waitresses tried to dodge his table. It was the conversation he insisted on. It got, well, personal. Not like those guys who would ask you your cup size, or if the carpets matched the drapes. Barrett would ask you why we did this job, and never took a lie for an answer. In the time you did the Hooters greeting and took his order, he could break through your mental defenses in a way 3 psychologists over 5 years of bi-weekly appointments failed to do for me. After throwing his order in the kitchen, I had to run into the bathroom sobbing and then fix my makeup. That night I had cried about my father walking out on my mother in a way I had never done before. It felt like someone grabbed my old scabbed wounds and tore them open to bleed anew. And I got a $50 tip for 1 plate of wings. The managers, on the other hand, seemed to love him. I think they had instinct to kiss up to money. And from Barrett's watch to his car, this man radiated wealth. They took every opportunity they could to stop by the table, say hello, or somehow engage in conversation. It was like being rich was contagious, and they just needed to catch the bug. Then the Dylan and Kelly thing happened, and the weird customer became a side problem. Kelly claimed Dylan, our assistant manager, forced her to do stuff she didn't want to keep her job. Police said there was no sign of force, and corporate just started dragging their feet. Everyone pretty much took it like doing stuff with management was cost of doing business. Things were escalating. Girls were talking about striking. Management was getting only more obnoxious and telling us we could be replaced at the drop of a hat. If we didn't like being here, we could just leave. Then there was the incident. Dylan had a flat tire on the highway, driver's side. He decided to change it himself and pull over to the side of the road. What happened next was reconstructed by forensics. They said a truck drove by too close and caught his suit jacket on the rear underguard. The driver could not see him. They estimated his death to be about 3 miles down the highway. Dylan was dragged as the road belt sanded him alive, breaking his bones and tearing off his limbs. Finally, he was fed into the wheel well, where he was crushed repeatedly, reduced to a pace spread across 500 feet in 3 lanes. No one knew what to think. Some people were horrified. Some people thought he got exactly what he deserved. Then Kelly called me in the middle of the night sobbing. and asked me to come meet her at a local bar for closing drinks. We weren't friends. I had never seen Kelly out of uniform before. In jeans and a leather jacket, she just looked like a young woman, and not some sort of sex entertainer. I just can't do it, she sobbed, as soon as I got our drinks. You can't do what? Dylan is dead. What else is there to do? I promised Mr. Barrett. What? What are you talking about? I told Mr. Barrett. I told him I wanted that motherfucker to suffer and die. And in return, I had to call my best friend's wife and tell her we had been sleeping together all these years. What happened to Dylan was an accident. You did not cause that. You do not owe anyone anything. I haven't. I swear. She cried into her drink. 3 years of marriage. They have a kid together. I can't do that to him. To any of them. You do not have to do anything. I stood up and hugged her. I understand you feel somehow responsible, but you are not. What happened to Dylan was not your fault. Whatever deal you think you made, it's not real. That was the last time I saw Kelly. It happened on a different shift. She walked into the kitchen, tripped and fell face first into the fryer. 2nd-degree burns. Loss of vision in one eye. No longer fit to be a Hooters girl. Everyone wanted to blame the management as some sort of retaliation. The case was pretty cut and dry though. Security cameras showed no one was even close to her. She just took a bad step, and that was it. 2 days after that settled down, I had the Mr. Barrett table. I did what I could to avoid it, but we were low staff. You know it's all your fault, he said to me calmly as I tried to force a smile to take his order. What? I asked, caught off balance, no matter how much I mentally braced myself for his exchange. Kelly, if she would have done it, if you didn't interfere. I don't have time for this. I broke character. What do you want? Mike and Becky are still together. You did this. Someone owes me. I don't owe you anything. I must have been loud enough for half the Hooters to hear. Tell me if you want fucking wings, or get the fuck out of the restaurant. That's not very ladylike of you. Where is that Hooters hospitality? Why don't you sit next to me, and let me tell you what I want. I caught the manager's eye looking right at me. I put my smile back on, covered my soul with every shield my mind had, and sat down next to Barrett. So what is it you want, honey? Your mother's cancer. I literally bit my tongue. I had to listen to this bullshit or quit my job on the spot. I want to know what you want. Do you want it to go into remission for 10 years? Or would you like it to spread to her brain? Fuck you, I whispered, still smiling. You can go on vacation with her this summer, or you can be making funeral arrangements in 3 weeks. And what a 3 weeks that is going to be. If the tumor finds its way to the pain center, even morphine and sedation does nothing to relieve the agony. He looked at me and I was crying. I want you to call the number on the placemat and tell the woman that will pick up you want her husband to pay for the abortion. You are going to tell her that you meet him every Thursday when he goes to poker. He has not been losing more money lately. That's him paying for the dates. But now he won't pay for your abortion. You will do your best to convince her of your lie and not mention anything that may lead her to think you were manipulated. I will also have my usual wings. I think you know I like them Diablo. It was 2 hours later, 2 hours after I made the call, I ruined 3 strangers' lives to give someone I loved a decade to live. Please don't ask me why I believed him. I saw the choppy black and white footage of Kelly tripping on thin air and going into the fire. I know she was upset, and I know she may have been drunk, but I saw her. I saw her grabbing at her face and silently screaming as the asshole managers showing us the footage laughed and mimicked her motions, making fake yelling sounds. Dylan and Kelly were just demonstration. The door rang, and without checking the peephole, I let a man in. He had a gun he was pulling out of his jacket, and I didn't doubt his identity. "Why did you do it?" he yelled, pointing the barrel right at me. "Is it to buy drugs? Was it just a crazy coincidence that I got another woman pregnant in the past?" He threw a few hundreds on the table. "Here's your fucking money. Now tell me why." "Yes, I needed money to buy drugs," I said softly. "She won't even listen to me. This is the one thing she won't even listen to me about." "How did you know?" "Even Kelly didn't know about that. Tell me one fucking reason I should not shoot you." "I didn't know anything. I needed money and I got the number from Kelly. If you want to shoot me, shoot me. I don't care." It must have been the bland apathy in my voice that got him. He put down the gun on the table next to the money. "You are not worth this. If you have any decency, you should blow your own brains out. I am not going to prison for you. Sell the gun to buy more drugs. I don't care." There is a rule at Hooters. Girls can't leave the restaurant alone. It's there to protect the staff, not the customers. No one expects a psycho waitress to follow one out to his Lamborghini and empty a revolver at point blank at the driver. I probably did more damage to that car than the combination of all cars I would own in my lifetime. I didn't hit Mr. Barrett once. Maybe I was a bad shot, or maybe he was too good at being a target. I was not even officially fired. I left in handcuffs with bail higher than anyone I knew could afford. I was charged with attempted murder and thrown into the gears of the system. With my mother's money being gone to cancer treatments, I had nothing but a public defender. There were witnesses from the staff and patrons of the restaurant, but Mr. Barrett never took the stand. I never said a word about his involvement with Dylan's death. I got 15 years. Prison is its own den, filled with its own monsters. I may tell those stories some other day, but not here. What was important here is that 3 weeks after I was moved into federal, there was a Mr. Barrett there to see me. I knew without a doubt that if I talked to him, did what he wanted, I would be out of this hell within the week, if not the day. I refused to see him. He never tried again. I got out on parole in exactly 10 years for being a model prisoner. I think they also felt sorry for me, as this was exactly the week my mother's cancer came back. It was exactly like Mr. Barrett said it would be. The tumor spread to her brain. The joke was on him though. 10 years of medical research changed a death sentence to a manageable surgery. I moved in with her, and somehow after everything that happened, we were closer than ever before. I have held this story hidden in my heart until my mother's passing. Mr. Barrett, that man, he must have literally been the devil. The only power we have over him is to refuse him. That is what scares me, that at one point in my life, I will want something hard enough that Mr. Barrett finds me again. I am not afraid of the monsters in the world. I am afraid of the monsters in myself. What could I be to do with the right motivation? How many people would I let get hurt to get what I want? I feel bad about it, but what is that worth? Are Mike and Becky having better lives because I overdosed once, trying to take my own life? No. Self-pity is just another path into his arms. I must live with who I am, and who I could be, and I must never forget what darkness lurks just under the smiles of mankind.
Alright, so the year is 2008. I'm a freshman in college and I'm on my way home probably around midnight from one of my friends' houses, and I end up turning onto my parents' neighborhood street, and I just noticed this guy in white just walking really, really weirdly. I wasn't really sure what was going on. I didn't know if he was hurt. I didn't know if he was under the influence of drugs or alcohol, but he was moving very strangely, kind of stumbling, and I pull up very slowly towards him, and I ask if he's okay. I shit you not. He does not even say anything. He just opens my car door. I shit you not. He opens my car door. Not only that, he actually gets in my car. He closes the door and stares at me. At this point, little 18-year-old Scream is shitting bricks. I'm an 18-year-old, non-intimidating looking person, and this guy around midnight who was stumbling creepily winds up in my car. I didn't know what to do. Flight or flight didn't even make sense to me at that moment. I was absolutely frozen. And I ask again, can I help you? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I then remember that I had this box cutter kind of knife in my center console. I slowly lift the console up. I then flick the blade up a little bit and say, "You need to get out of my car right now." He kind of mumbles a little bit, but I don't know exactly what he said, but I think he said something to the effect of, "Oh, okay, my bad." Something like that. And then just like it all started, he just got out of my car. He closed the door, and I peeled out of there as fast as I could. I flew past my parents' house. I didn't want this guy knowing where I lived. I then sort of have a moment of clarity. I then do the one thing that you probably shouldn't do during a horror movie. I then turn my car around, go down a different street in the neighborhood. I go back the way I came just to see if this guy was still there. Maybe he lived in the area, but I just needed to make sure he wasn't going towards my parents' house. That was the last thing that I wanted. I did not want him near my family's house. So I turn around, I go back the way I came, and he was gone. I couldn't find him. He was nowhere. I don't know where he went. I don't know if he lived in one of those houses. I have no idea if he was walking through someone's backyard or whatever the situation may be, but all I know, he was gone. So creepy weirdo, possibly high guy who got in my car around midnight, let's never meet again.
I know most of you out there will think this is a hoax, or that I'm just some woman trying to gain internet fame, but let me assure you, that is not the case. I don't even know where to begin, really. I will try to start at the beginning, but you see, my mind isn't as sharp as it once was. October 22nd, 2016. I moved into a cute, secluded house. You're probably thinking, oh great, another haunted house story. But no, you would be mistaken. That is not where this story is going. As I was saying, I moved into a new house in a very secluded area. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and as far as I knew, there weren't any deaths that happened in or around the home. I did my research. As a single woman, you can never be too careful. The previous owner was an old woman, perhaps a widow or a spinster. I only saw one name when I looked up the address. She passed away of natural causes at the local old folks' home. It was called Willow Tree Senior Living. I couldn't find too much on the place. See, I researched. No deaths in the house. The owner before that was also an older woman, also a widow or a spinster. I hope this isn't a pattern and I end up living out my days as a lonely old woman in this house. But I digress. It seemed too good to be true at the time. The only stipulation my realtor had given me was that at no point in time was I ever allowed to cut down the horrific-looking tree that peered into my bedroom window. I thought to myself, well, what an odd clause, and without probing any further, signed my name on the dotted line. But maybe I should have trusted my instincts. Upon settling in, I don't recall any weird instances. No odd smells coming from the basement or anything like that. Life was good and I was truly happy. October 22nd, 2017. A year had gone by and I finally made my house my own. New floors were installed and a fresh coat of paint gave the house new light. I even knocked down a few walls to give it that open floor plan that I've always seen on the Home Network channel. Chip and Joanna Gaines would be so proud of me. It was perfect. On the inside anyways. I just really hated that tree. The more I saw it, the more I wish I would have asked more about it and why I wasn't allowed to remove it. It must have been some historical something or other, I don't know. Every night I would stare at it before bed. It was as if I couldn't look away no matter how hard I tried. I installed window treatments, but even the drapes could not help. The shadowy outline of the tree taunted me. It was an eyesore that I couldn't get rid of. Then, things started to get weird. October 23rd, 2017. I woke up feeling particularly tired that day. I looked like I hadn't slept in days and I was drained. That's the best way I could describe it. Drained. I remember having an odd dream that night about that stupid fucking tree. Great. Now it's even taunting me in dreamland. I need to stop looking at it right before bed, I thought to myself. The dream was so vivid, it seemed as if it wasn't a dream at all. I could picture every detail so clear in my mind. I was wearing a white nightgown, like something out of the 17th century, definitely not my style. I was surrounded by men or women maybe, I really couldn't tell. It was hard to tell as they were all wearing hooded black cloaks. The hooded figures formed a pattern of some kind. Not a circle, not a square, maybe more like a diamond or a star? Yeah, I'm quite positive it was a star. The fire they were surrounding was roaring, but the smoke was an odd color. It wasn't like any color I've ever seen coming from a bonfire anyways. It was more of a dull purple. The tree was always there, except in the dreams. The tree had some sort of decorations hanging from it. The hooded figures were always so fixated on the tree. But me, I was scared. I was terrified. I was so close to the fire, I was perspiring. Even though it was only a dream, I remember feeling the sweat dripping from my forehead down to my upper lip. I was terrified. I felt paralyzed. As I stood there, unable to move or speak, I realized the figures were chanting something. It was some otherworldly language that I could not for the life of me understand. I kept trying to speak and ask them what they wanted, why they were saying what they were saying, but they looked straight through me, as though I wasn't even there. Not knowing what else to do, I pinched myself. I pinched myself so hard that when I woke up, I had a bruise in the exact same spot. I must have done it to myself in real life too. I had wondered if I was so tired because my mind was running wild all night, and it didn't allow my brain to have peaceful, tranquil dreams. When I finally woke up, I put on an extra bold pot of coffee and stared at myself in the mirror. Jeez, I really need a better eye cream. And is that a gray hair? I know I haven't been that stressed at work. I guess this is what getting older entails. October 24th through 30th, 2017. The same dream. The same fucking dream every night. No, it's not a dream, it's a nightmare. Over and over. The bruises on my arm from these pinches are now alarming me. My entire arm is covered in purplish yellow bruising, and my eyes are so tired. They look tired, they feel tired. I do not want to close them in fear of falling asleep. There are more gray hairs than black covering my head at this point. This can't be normal for a 26-year-old, I don't think. The more I sleep, the older I look the next day. At first, I thought it was just part of getting older, but this, my friends, this is not normal. Something is draining the life out of me. I can barely function at work. Coffee, energy drinks, nothing is keeping me from dozing off. Whenever I close my eyes, I see it replaying in my mind. The hooded figures, the purple smoke, the tree. Then, I hear it. The chanting. The crackling of the fire. My tired voice trying to get their attention. This can't be right. Morning of October 31st. Halloween night. One of my most hated nights of the year. I loved how secluded I was. No need to buy candy. I highly doubted that anyone would bring their children into this neck of the woods. I was trying hard not to fall asleep, but found it very difficult to resist the temptation of my bed. Maybe if I just close my eyes for 5 minutes and set an alarm, I won't have the nightmare. Evening of October 31st. Wait, what's that? Oh my god. I slept a full hour and no nightmare? Is it over? Can I sleep like a normal human being now? Pure excitement flooded my thoughts. As I walked into my living room, I didn't bother to look out the window. Instead, I just yelled, "Sorry, no candy, kiddos." My voice sounded odd. It must have been because I had just woken up. Seriously, kids, I don't have any candy. Holy shit, these kids are relentless. Storming to the door, I was ready to tell them once again I had no candy. As I went to the door, I caught a glimpse of myself in the entryway mirror. What I saw in that mirror could not have been true. This couldn't be me. Horrified by the sight, I stumbled and tripped. I looked down at my hands to see not those of a young woman, but wrinkled hands with rotting fingernails. My hair was completely white. It was long and straggly, no longer the neat black hair I usually kept. I tried to speak, but nothing would come out. I felt paralyzed. I felt like I did in that nightmare. I mustered up all my strength and tried to pinch myself. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! From the window, I could see purple smoke and hear the chanting. This couldn't be real. Wake up! Wake up! With the little strength I regained, I pinched myself as hard as I could. Nothing. I was still seeing the smoke. I was still unable to speak. I was frozen. The hooded figures were no longer surrounding the fire. They were pounding harder and harder on my door. I slid my body across the floor and managed to reach my cell phone. It took all I had in me, but I managed to dial 911. October 31st, 2019. It has been 2 years since I left that house and that godforsaken tree. 2 years that I've been locked away in this facility. When the cops found me, I was nothing but a crazy old woman telling a story about a tree that took my youth. They never found the young woman who lived in the house, so they pinned her disappearance on me. They said I must have drowned her in the lake. Me, a feeble old woman, drowning someone in a lake? It didn't make much sense to me either. They had no proof, so they couldn't lock me away in a prison cell, so here I am. The tree, however, it's never left me. The more I sleep, the older I get. I, too, shall live out the last of my days at Willow Tree Psychiatric Center, like the owners of the house before me. I must have done my research incorrectly. From what I've read, the house remains unoccupied, but I hope, no, I pray, that the next owner chops down that tree, or else they'll end up withering away, like me.
You left the robot vacuum in the pool, Sarah informed me. As we're getting ready for bed, it needs to go in the shed before someone steals it. Mildly peeved and grumbling that I had to put it away earlier, I moved to take care of it. But she stopped me. That's fine, I'll get it, Sarah said flatly. I let her. I usually try to avoid my backyard in the evenings. Although we had a significant amount of mosquitoes, biting insects, snakes, and other critters from the nearby swamp that tend to creep past my fence. They aren't my chef's concern. My problem is the shed. Well, actually it's the rotting shed behind the shed. When we first moved into our fixer-upper house, we discovered the new yard required a decent amount of work. We had this massive, non-functioning murky water feature filled with debris. Frogs, mosquitoes, and God knows what else. Seated at the top of its 7-foot-tall rock waterfall was a toddler-sized cement statue of a boy with a fishing pole. His face was twisted into an expression which the previous elderly homeowner must have thought was a charming smile. "It's the guardian of the yard. Don't you like him?" One of the workers had laughed sarcastically. Ultimately, he followed Sarah's orders, burying and removing it all, boy and pond. Well, almost. One day, as I was putting away some of the extra construction materials into the decrepit second shed, which sits flush against its much nicer, white-painted neighbor, I saw it staring back at me. The decapitated head of a little boy statue. Someone had put the head on the shelf in the corner, facing the door. Sarah said that she didn't know anything about it. It was more than creepy. So whenever I later had to deal with that shed, I'd unlatch the door, throw in whatever I needed, and get the hell out of there. Sarah always laughed at me. One day I noticed the head was missing. Had Sarah thrown it out? She hadn't. I surely had it. It was a disturbing development. But mostly I was grateful that it was gone. That night I waited in bed for much longer than I should have for Sarah to come back from the shed. Finally, as dread slowly mounted in my gut, I decided to check in on her. I should have turned on the pool light, but I was in a rush. I never go out there in the dark like that. As I neared the shed, I heard the low, gurgling sound, only a split second before I tripped over Sarah's body, lying just outside the shed's open door. "Sarah," I whispered, the scent of the freshly spilled blood filling my nostrils as I bent down and reached for my wife. I felt a jagged, wet, sticky hole in her neck. A sudden sound of movement and rustling of leaves from beneath the second shed, and a pair of glowing, red specks, eyes, peered back at me. Then came this small voice. "My yard," it said.
You awake on the ground in the alleyway. Your pockets are empty. Didn't you have a phone with you? Didn't you have a phone with you? Didn't you have a phone with you? There's a high-pitched screech in your ears. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? In an attempt to find answers, you try and call out. Is anyone there? Not a single sound makes it through. You panic. This isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't right. You think to yourself. Try as you might recollect to what happened before you blacked out. Not a single answer comes to mind. Suddenly, a loud thumping starts from behind. As the screeching comes to an end, you listen closely to find the source. The sound gets louder. It's closer. It's closer. You start to run in the opposite direction, only to find two pathways. One is the covered in moss, like a water-like goose spread across the floor. The other was poorly attempted to be blocked off. There is enough space to push through. However, you can't see through either path. This sounds closer.
You're running out of time. Choose something.
You're running out of time. Choose something. You rush into the path in the moss. You're running out of breath, but you persist. You don't know what is making that sound, but you fear that if you find out, it will be too late. You have reached a dead end. You can't think straight. Your entire world is collapsing around you. You try pushing forward, but you're in the same place. Not as in running in circle, just not going forward. Your movements work. They don't get you anywhere. As if you're in a treadmill, running in place. Run! Don't stand there. Move! Move something. Run!
Leave.
Just a little more. Everything is fading darker and darker. The thumping continues, getting louder with each beat. Your vision twists and turns. A creature appears before you, yet you can't make out any features. To be honest, you don't really see it at all. You just feel it's there. Flashing lights appear out of nowhere. A collision of colors, almost as if a close-up of a light show. If you had the time, you might have even stopped to admire them. Too bad. You're stuck here, and you know it. You scream. Or try to. Still, it's silent. Falling to the ground. All you want to do is leave. Tears fall down your face. The thumping has been cut off. The light ceased. Your vision returns to normal. Well, you think it does. Truth is, the darkness is the only thing filling your eyesight. You feel the creature disappear. Am I dead? Am I dead? Am I dead? You ask yourself. Then everything fades to white. You wake in a panic. Your lit up clock shows it's actually 5:57 in the morning. Was it all in your head? You have to wake up in a little while for school anyway. So you get up, try, and piece together your dream in your head. It's as clear as daylight in your memories. I thought you could have remembered your dreams. You think to yourself. You figure that rumor isn't always true. It wouldn't matter anyway. You've been having that nightmare for a few days now. Maybe even a week. Is that a flashlight? You think as you look over your shoulder. It's all in my head. Finally, giving up on thinking about this, you get ready for school. 6:30 a.m. rolls around and you leave the house. Then you realize, where's Mom? You go with the simple answer and assume that she just went to work early and you forgot that she told you. You've done that often. The bus arrives and you board. It's surprisingly quiet. Everyone's there. They're staring at you. They're following your movements. You can't decide if this means anything or not. After sitting down next to your best friend, everyone looks away and returns to talking. You barely hear a Taylor Swift song playing in the background through all the talking. The ride seems longer than usual. You look out the window to see that the bus is taking a new route. The bus comes to a stop. Looking through the window again, you see an abandoned hockey rink and a closed store for some sort. There's a trash light pole, and the sidewalk is in crumbles. The door to the bus opens, and everyone walks out. Did the bus break down? Your breath grows heavy. You reach the entrance of the bus and slowly step down onto the excuse for a sidewalk. Confused, you take a small step forward. Where did they all go? A loud screeching sound from behind you as you turn to see the bus. The wheels start spinning. Faster, faster, faster. They keep spinning more and more until the rear end of the bus is out of sight. Realizing that chasing after it, it's pointless. You run to the opposite direction. Maybe you can at least get back home from there. You start on your long, tedious walk ahead of you. Hours later, and you become lost. There were no turns, so that you could be no issue. Tired as you are, you still push. It's like there's something in your gut telling you that there is an exit in front of your eyes. Just a little further. Just a little further. About ready to pass out, you slowly sit down and lean against the wall behind you. You feel as if you've gotten nowhere. Ready to start again. You stand up, look at your surroundings. You see an abandoned hockey rink and a closed store of some sorts. Again? Why? How? You start to run. Did I go in a circle? Where am I anyway? Then it drops you like an atom bomb. Tears streak down your face. The Thumps. They're back. And a flash of white appears before you as you fall to the ground. Everything fades to black as you see two slim boots steps towards you. And the thumping grows louder. You awaken in a darkened alley. You hear a laughing voice from behind. A booming screech sounds from all around. The thumping continue. Well, you think they do. You don't know if they had stopped while you were blacked out. You shudder at the sound. Not again. You think to yourself. You scream out. Nothing. Not a sound. Why do I even bother? A voice comes from behind.
This is too much fun, you know.
It sounds a bit like a teenage girl. She giggles. All you can think to do is stare. You see nothing.
The Thumps are still going. Don't you have something you need to be doing?
Who are you?
Someone or something.
Pick what you like.
You manage to push a few words out. Something? What? You're taken aback by this. You realize you have no time to think about this. Your feet starts moving forward. They start speeding up faster and faster. Are you even doing this on your own? Those same two paths appear before you. You already know what's down the mossy pathway. A dead end in the path would be your dead end. You slam your foot through the wooden boards covering the second pathway. Your steps have become in a rhythm with the Thumps. The voice is back.
Bottom. That's the sound of a chase.
You sped up a bit.
Bottom. That's the sound that it makes.
Faster.
Bottom. Then that's a fatal mistake. And
You're at a full speed.
bottom.
A wall comes into view.
The bomb never comes.
The voice giggles. You crash into the wall. The giggle turns to a cackling. Your vision blurs and slowly fades to black. You awake in a panic. Your lit up clock shows it's actually 5:57 in the morning. Was it all in your head? You have to wake up in a little while for school anyway. So you get up and try to piece the dream together in your head. You've been having that nightmare for a few days now. Maybe even a week. Is that a flashing red light? Good night. Farewell. And remember, don't get lost in the dark.
Shield Isolation, Part 1. Written by MrCreepyJ. A clear liquid ran over my shield skin, filling the pores and cuts. What happened? Where am I? I can see, and all of my hands touch is slimy. All I can remember is the crash in the mountains. Clancy was calling to me before we made contact with the ground. Something about following the blood. I slipped my hands into my tactical vest, my fingers carefully wrapped around the handle. I pulled the blade out, pressing it into the leathery darkness in front of me, pressing ever so slowly. The tip punctured the wall. I pulled back as the liquid began to flood out from inside the compartment. Before I knew it, I had toppled out and onto the freeze-cold ground. A stone-cold floor met my face as I landed. Snow grabbed onto and stuck to me as I clambered on my feet. Turning around, I shuddered. The now sticky liquid flying off in chunks. A flesh-colored paw that has been against the cave's wall. Many other empty ones line up next to it. Checking my remaining gear, I came up with a flashlight, 2 flares, my knife, and some sort of orb. It radiated warmth to the touch and illuminated the walls with an amber glow as I pulled it out. My gallery of color was cut short as I heard noises coming from the connecting chamber. They were guttural, the sounds of an animal struggling to move after being hit by a car. I didn't stay around to figure out what was making them. It felt like hours, navigating that maze of a cave. It gave me time to think, running from the noises I didn't make. Why were I even here? I was helping a friend on a suicide mission. Yeah, I might have saved the species, but look where it got us. Most of our crew was dead, their blood splattering a dance on the walls with the remains unceremoniously left to rot. Clancy, that dumbass, brought us here to be killed. Mission aside, the only chance I stood now was hiking along the Alaskan coast until I came across other survivors. Or maybe more of these things, but fingers crossed. I sparked another flare to life. The warm red light bounced off the walls and trailed my fingers against the cold rock. Rounding a corner before I nearly shouted in shock. There was one of them, feasting on someone's remains. His back was to me. The mess of bones and blood was still being picked away for every ounce of meat. Dark, carapace-like skin reflected the flow of the flare back at me. Needle-thin nails worked tirelessly, with the scraps of person left. Teeth fiddled with tender pieces of meat between them, savoring the feast before wolfing down what was left. My eyes held themselves open. My legs became jelly as I just stared. It turned to face me, showing off the many rows of teeth and escaping mouth.
Friends, Seven here. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up, and subscribe for it is greatly appreciated if you haven't already. Don't forget to turn on my post notifications, so you can be notified for all of my future narrations. I would also like to give a special thanks to all the amazing narrators that joined me in this collaboration. Go check them out if you haven't yet. All their links will be in the description below. And don't forget to show them some love. And remember, Nightfall is upon us.